Jack Ebling and Lindsay Huddleston here at Breslin Center. It's a press pass preview. We got a preview of how good the Duke Blue Devils can be when they are playing the way they did tonight. Dominated Michigan State in every category and won the game 87-75. A very deceptive 12-point win. Looked like 20 most of the night.
I agree. I remember watching basketball games as a young person, and sometimes you'll see those games where one team dominates from start to finish. And it's almost like by the time you get to the second half, you're just waiting for the game to be over. And it seemed to be one of those games tonight.
Michigan State made one run, cut a 16-point halftime deficit to 8. Cassius Winston hit a 3, and crowd was into it. It was a great crowd here.
Yes, it was.
Fantastic environment, and they came to see Michigan State win a game, beat Duke back-to-back. That certainly didn't happen. They came to see Draymond Green, and that did happen.
That did happen. Coach Izzo said in his presser that he almost felt embarrassed for Draymond, that this was such a big night for him, and to come back and to have that kind of response. He said he would only hope that the team played harder, not better, but harder, to recognize someone like Draymond and what he's done.
Tom Izzo has beaten Duke twice, and both times in the NCAA tournament, in the Sweet 16, last year in the Elite 8. But most of the time, Duke has had its way with Michigan State, and the two biggest deficits were the ones here. Michigan State never really in this game. It got away late in the first half, and there wasn't much Michigan State could do. The Blue Devils were trapping and switching on screens, staying with Cassius Winston, making him get rid of the ball. Nobody else could do anything with it. Aaron Henry didn't score until the final minute of the game.
Right.
Rocket Watts had a lot of tough moments out there, couldn't get anything going. Duke blocked 11 shots. 11 shots. I think that's a record for the Izzo era.
Yeah.
Most of them were right at the rim. Michigan State thought they had a layup, and as soon as they would go up, Duke would swat it.
Right. It's amazing how players on that Duke team who weren't even part of the last loss can still play as if they experienced that. You know, they say this is tongue-in-cheek, but they say the reason Duke wears black on the road because it's the other team's funeral, and it was a funeral tonight, man.
That's interesting logic, I guess, the psychology of that. But Duke shot better from the field, shot better from 3, shot much better at the line, rebounded better, defended better. You name it, they did it. And Michigan State had another bad game. And people now have to ask some questions. The opening loss to Kentucky, people said, okay, that's a toss-up game. That was a 1 versus 2 game. This game, Michigan State was a 6.5-point favorite.
Wow.
Never led by more than 2 in this game, and only led for less than a minute total time. But Michigan State did just about everything wrong it could do and turned Vernon Carey into an All-American, a guy who nearly came to Michigan State. And one of the things that's troubling to me is going all the way back to the Judd Heathcote days and throughout the 25 years of Tom Izzo, Michigan State could always take away the other team's best player. Now, the other team's best player is having a career night. We saw it with Tyrese Maxey, we saw it with Miles Powell, we saw it with Anthony Edwards in the second half for Georgia. And tonight, Vernon Carey Jr. looked like a lottery pick, no question about it.
Oh, he certainly did. You know, I think a word that's going to transition from 2 sports seasons, from football with Michigan State to basketball, is expectations. What are the expectations, the realistic expectations for this team right now, preseason number 1, but with a healthy Josh Langford? Not having that secondary or primary person to focus on, it's a different team. What do you think?
Absolutely. Completely different team. And getting Josh Langford back, dicey, if it happens at all. It would happen very, very, very late in the season, and I'm not expecting it to happen. So Michigan State has to get better. They have to figure out a way to get things going when Cassius Winston is not hitting on all cylinders. Tonight was one of those nights, 4 for 14 from the field. Xavier Tillman had 20 points and 8 rebounds, but early fouls knocked him out for much of the first half, and that was the point when Duke asserted itself and took that 16-point lead, a lot of it with Xavier Tillman on the bench.
I asked Coach Izzo, I know he's going to tear into that video later on, probably tonight, but are there any bright spots, or was it too soon? He said right now it's too soon, but did you glean anything? Marcus Bingman's play, seeing Julius Marble getting there to get around the basketball for a bucket or two. I mean,
Julius Marble got a bucket at garbage time. That didn't matter.
Yeah.
I thought Marcus Bingham played well, considering he had to try to stop Vernon Carey inside. Good luck with that. But I thought that he stepped out, he hit some threes. He did what he could do. And I would say that he was the number one star, even though Xavier Tillman had better numbers.
Right.
After that, it's kind of dicey. You look at the point guard matchup, and that was something people thought would be in Michigan State's favor. It certainly was when these teams played in the Elite Eight. And Trey Jones went off, and what did he finish with? 20 points, 12 assists, dominant, controlling the ball. It looked like Cassius last year against Michigan, like he had the ball on a string.
Right. And then you talk about those 20 points, you're talking about 5 for 5 shooting. I mean, he was locked in, he was confident, and I think one thing I did not see with a lot of Michigan State players was the confidence.
No, you didn't, and there was nothing to be confident about. Duke shot 7 for 15 from 3, and hadn't been hitting a third of their three-pointers coming in. So it was one of those nights. Michigan State picked a bad night to be bad, and a bad night to play Duke, and put those things together. And a lot of people left here very disappointed.
Yeah. One other thing I noticed from watching some of those players is almost as if that they didn't want to make a mistake. They were playing. You saw a lot of times they had an extra dribble, an extra pass, rather just playing with this freedom. And I think many cases that could be a reflection of the coach's challenge going up against this team like Duke.
Well, I think that they wanted them to be aggressive. They certainly did, but Duke was just better. They were quicker, they were stronger, they were more skilled, they made more plays. The only thing where Michigan State really did not come out on the short end statistically was turnovers. Duke had 15, Michigan State 14. 14 turnovers, not bad, but there was a point in the first half where Michigan State had 7 baskets and 8 turnovers. And that's when the game really got away. From that point forward, Michigan State was never in it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of getting away, soon there's going to be a press pass preview and press pass coming up. Are some other things you're thinking about? You got planned?
Well, you're going to be with me Saturday at Lucas Oil Stadium for the Big Ten championship game.
All right.
Ohio State and Wisconsin, a rematch. Don't know if the Badgers can be any more competitive the second time around. And then Sunday, we'll be back to do press pass. And we're going to have Tom Crawford, Rico Beard, Doug Warren, and you'll be here for Michigan State Rutgers.
Michigan State
Sunday
Rutgers.
night.
Have a great seat for that game. That'll be great.
And we'll talk to you Sunday. Have a great week.